If you find this video at all helpful, be sure to smack that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Alright, don't stop me if you've already heard this first one, because yeah, I probably heard it for the first time a couple of years ago too. And it's not that I just learned this, it's just what I learned about this and how much it actually applies that I've started using this in 90% of my fights. So you see it demonstrated best against Yellow Jacket. For whatever reason, the AI is a lot more likely to accept your dexterities if you only use a medium light combo. So 4-hit combo instead of 5 hits. For whatever reason, it's the only way it's going to let you avoid those really tricky specials like Yellow Jacket's SP1, Emma Frost's SP2, Venom's SP2, Cable's SP1, Warlocks SP1. If you find yourself getting clipped by these on a regular basis, this is why. Like 99% chance, this is why you keep getting clipped. It applies really well to Magneto's Special 2. If you go in for a full 5-hit combo, for whatever reason, you'll almost never evade that. I've never been able to myself personally, but for whatever reason, as you see here, you do a 4-hit combo, and it works. And basically, I've just learned to adapt this into every fight, because otherwise I'll forget about it. And then they release a new champion with a tricky special, and you think, oh, how come I got it that one time and I didn't get it the rest of the times? Well, it's just because you weren't using this tactic, apparently. And here I thought it was because I was playing like a mug. But 100% of the time, I will evade Magneto Special 2 if I use the 4-hit combo method. Next trick I'm going to demonstrate here is called the corner heavy tactic. You've probably seen it before amongst Magic players who are really high up. It's very popular amongst all power control champions, and especially Dr. Octopus as well. But I've actually started incorporating corner heavies into my regular rotation, not just with power control champions, but with pretty much every champion that I use on a regular basis. And it's just because it is really effective to get them pinned in the corner and continuously use that heavy attack, because a lot of newer champions have beneficial effects, or even buff champions have beneficial effects for their heavies. Like for example, She-Hulk, renews the slow on her heavy attack, and so does Spider-Gwen. But also champions like even classic Spider-Man have such a high crit rate on classic Spider-Man that it's really beneficial if you can learn to corner them and heavy them. I'm just using the example of power control champions here, because obviously champions that have power control and can do this on a regular basis can really just beat the hell out of all of their opponents in the corner, and it's very effective. One of the champions I'm going to show up next using this tactic is one you may not have seen it ever used before on, as at least I never have, is Void. And Void is like the absolute king for cornering the opponent and then just spamming heavy over and over again. I think Void's range on his heavy is, for whatever reason, just a little bit further than any other champion I've ever seen. It's super effective. Last month's event quest, it was great, and it was also really effective for me in a lot of Act 6 stuff, but I've worked this into the rotation with a lot of champions. It's really great for Sentinel, Aegon, Blade, Venom, Warlock, or just some of the ones I'm using it on a regular basis with. Pretty much just work it in all the time. Now number 3 is the reparry, or double tap as I like to call it, because that's literally all you have to do to perform this method. And it almost seemed so simple that I shouldn't even include it in the video, but I recently found out that apparently a lot of people still don't know how to do this. But if you're dealing with any opponent where you can't parry them on their first medium attack, like Iron Man, Infinity War, Ebony Maw, Domino, Vision Aarkus, or Havok, and I think Nova as well, all you have to do is parry and then release the screen and then parry again very quickly. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's honestly not too much. I'm sure you'll get it down without too much of a problem. It didn't take me very long to learn it once I realized it was there, and apparently a lot of people still don't know it's there. It's also really great for any masochism pass that you might be dealing with, as long as you have a high damage output champion. Now trick number 4, it's a bit repetitive because it's the same tactic as trick number 1, but it's for a different purpose. This is medium, light, dashback, so your essential 4-hit combo rotation. The purpose that I'm using it for here is against Labyrinth of Legends Star-Lord, and that's for better intercepts. Again, for whatever reason, the AI just responds a lot better in any type of aggressive AI situation to allow you to get those intercepts. If you go in for a full 5-hit combo, you'll never get those intercepts, or you'll have to dash back and dash back again, and then dash back some more, and like very carefully line up your intercepts. But for whatever reason, if you just do the 4-hit combo, medium, light, 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 you can land those intercepts 100% of the time, as long as they don't have a special attack ready and they don't evade. You know, those typical annoyances. But you get the point. Before I get into trick number 5, there's a few disclaimers we gotta get out of the way. First disclaimer is for the previous 4 tricks. They are not going to work for everyone, plain and simple. And the reason for that is if they're not working for you, there's a really good chance it's just because your device is too old and doesn't have a refresh rate that's high enough for you to perform these higher refresh rate required tactics, plain and simple. For example, I normally play on a Galaxy S9 Plus, works perfectly all the time. But if I try to play on my Galaxy S6, they never work. And that's just the hard fact of life. If you're using an old phone, you're going to have difficulty with this, and I pretty much can never pull off most of those tactics when I'm playing on my older phone. To start us off in the laundry list of disclaimers I have to cover for this 5th and final trick, it is that there is one little trick to this final trick. And it's not that hard, but it does take a little bit of explaining for you to understand, so pay close attention to the end of the video and I'll show you how it's done. That being said, you also have to know that this last trick doesn't necessarily work for everyone. I've surveyed it amongst about 60 players, and I found that approximately 2 out of 3 players will have this, but obviously not all of them are going to have it, and it might just be in a different location than where it is for myself and the majority of players, as it seems. But it also might just be the case that they're doing it wrong and don't understand the little trick that I'm going to show you for this map, and that's why they're not finding it, and that's probably more likely the reason, in my opinion. Now, before all the mama boys out there start losing their mind and saying, oh my god, I gotta go tell Kabam about this, they can't possibly know it's there, they already know it's there, okay? It's been mentioned on the forums in the past, but a lot of people have difficulty finding it, so it's never really been addressed greatly. But yes, Kabam already know it's there. They designed the game, so obviously they put it there. Hello. Now, that being said, there are a lot of different people that work over at Kabam. So what gets brought up with Kabam Joe on Monday, and Kabam Joe's totally cool with, and he's like, yeah, that's awesome, it's totally great. What gets brought up with Kabam Mike on Friday might be more like, pro player content, we're not having none of that, squash it now. So I would appreciate it if you just kept this one between us. And the last thing you got to keep in mind with this trick is, sure, under ideal circumstances, you can have really, really insane results. Like one day I did farm 7 revives in about 24 hours. But under ideal conditions, like I had energy refills and overflow that were about to expire, and I had tons of extra time on my hands, and and RNG was very much in my favor because there is a little bit of a luck aspect to this. Under normal conditions, I would expect that if I ran through 3 full energy runs per day, probably ran the map 4 times, I would be very lucky to get this twice, maybe 3 times. But it could also happen where the day is just total crap and RNG is not in my favor and I only get it once. So you got to keep that in mind, which is a difficult thing to wrap your head around, especially since it can become quite time consuming. Without further ado, it is Act 4.1, Map 6. So that's Act 4, Chapter 1, Map 6, where you will hopefully find this revive. I just recently retested this to make sure it's still there and still working. As of last week, I was able to farm 7 revives in 24 hours. And yes, you do have to actually complete the map every time in order for it to keep refreshing. Attempt to explain the science behind this madness. Like I said, there's a little bit of luck dependent in this, but here's how you keep that revive coming back. It's not that hard, but you do have to pay attention, and you never want to stop farming this when it's not on the map, because then you're going to lose track, guaranteed, because you won't come back to days, maybe weeks, even months. You'll totally forget where it was supposed to be, and if you're lucky with an updated, it will have refreshed. But basically, if you want to farm this and it disappears and it doesn't show up, what you need to do is check the map for whatever item that appeared on a path that wasn't there before, and then you take that path. So for example, the revive was on path number 1, and you looked at all the items that were on every single path in the map. When it got the revive, then the next round it's not there, but you noticed an energy refill spawned on path number 4. Go for that energy refill. Unfortunately, because it meets a certain intersection in the road, you might have to end up running both paths before the energy or before the revive refreshes. But that's how I keep track of it. So I look at the map and I look at every single item that's available to be gotten when the revive is there, and then you look for where a new item spawned. And I'm saying like the higher value item, which can be tricky to pay attention to, but it's not always an energy refill. It could be a small energy refill, it could be a piece of ISO, 3-star chest, whatever. It's hard to tell what you're looking for, but you have to keep track of what items on the map. In a way, it's kind of like counting cards if you think about it. Thank you all so much for watching, and good luck with that.